Welcome to the Jill on Money Coronavirus Market Update. Okay, we're doing something a little different because we've got a lot going on today. It is Tuesday, 12:06 p.m. when we are recording this. Here's what's going on so far. We see stock market indexes roaring back up over about 7%. This is as we hear that the folks down in D.C. are very close to getting a deal. And I think on the tail of the Federal Reserve action, when there was just a crazy amount of stuff that was announced, along with this congressional deal, looks like real people are going to get some relief. And that's incredibly important. Still, I do want to just caution you all, as a friend of mine just texted me, which is hope this is not a bear market trap, meaning that often that we see during the middle of a bear market, big, huge surges up. And that can be one of those crazy instances where you think the worst is over, but it's not. So let's take it with a bit of a relief, but also with a grain of salt. Big, huge 1,500 point Dow day. Maybe it's going to be more, but long and short of it is these volatile sessions are not going to conclude anytime soon. Okay, now that said, also, we got to get to your real questions. And there's so much going on in the world that it is really tough to parse it all. So I got an email very early this morning from one of my producers at CBS asking about an interesting story, which was perhaps in this bill, there is going to be some ability for people to take money out of their 401ks and not pay a 10% penalty and have a few years to pay the money back. Even if that were the case, just like with any procedure that comes out of Congress, I really want to be clear. If possible, we want you to avoid tapping your retirement account. Please. This is something that's incredibly important. If it's an emergency, we can talk you through it. But if you have questions about that, just send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Okay. Okay. Let's get to some of your questions. Robert asks that he read my column in a Tribune paper, found it to be interesting. He said, according to you about the Federal Reserve injecting money into the bond market and the economy, where does the Fed get the money? Well, the Fed can actually print money. The Fed, along with the Treasury, they kind of work in concert. Yes, it can print money. The question really is, I think that you're asking, and you do go ahead and isn't this going to cause inflation? I think the Fed is really worried about deflation and its consequences. The Fed is worried about deflation because that's what you worry about when the economy comes to a halt. Just like in the financial crisis, where everyone was worried about inflation, that was a silly worry. We don't worry about inflation when the economy is contracting. By its very nature, a recession becomes deflationary. And certainly in this particular instance, we are seeing the demand side of the equation. This started as a supply side problem, but the demand side is really, really getting hammered. Okay, so here is a question from Christine, who says, as a retiree in my late 70s, not only is my health in jeopardy, but I'm concerned about taking money out of my IRA account, which has plummeted. Oh, gosh, terrible. I'm sorry that I think that's a lot of people can relate to that. The required minimum distribution is a terrible drain on this account at this time. Is there any possibility that there could be a hold put on mandatory distributions until the markets recoup and settle down? I have no way to replenish those losses when the market does recover. And sure, I'd like the stock market to recover as well. Okay, so here's what I would say. At the very least, do not take money out of your account right now for your RMD. A lot of people have it set up to have a monthly or a quarterly. Don't do that. Just wait. I think it would be interesting to see if Congress could maybe think ahead and talk about this issue. I have no information as to whether or not that is in the plans. That would really, really be a very smart way to proceed. Okay. And Roger actually asked another question about this, and He also is advocating for an elimination of the required minimum distribution, or at least a delay. And, I really think this is probably not high on the list, but it is sure important. Here's one more question here. This is from Allison, who says she's enjoying the podcast. And she says, it seems the news is getting worse and worse. I'm concerned about bank closures. Should we be concerned about these bank closures? Is there a safer alternative for deposits? Allison, we answered this yesterday. I want to answer it again. Please do not start some crazy run on a bank. We do not need to worry about this. This is not a problem. The banks will be there. I don't want people to freak out. No running to the bank. I will say one thing. I had to go to the bank anyway just to get some cash out because I had zero cash. I did use a little pointer on that touch screen because I was like, why am I touching this with my fingers? Right? Isn't that smart, Mark? It's very unlike me, but I finally use it in my head. Okay. Hey, we're going to keep this up every single day. So please send us your messages. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Of course, go to the website, jillonmoney.com. And there you will be able to access all the great content that we're putting together. If you run into a problem, we want to be here for you. This is a health pandemic. It is now an economic and financial pandemic. Questions that you have that we can maybe help reassure you, please just let us know. That's why we are here. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.